The Seminole calls this land Pahai-Oki, the grassy water, a dark primeval place whose restless, whispering waters teem with shadowy and often ominous life.
It was a cold and misty night. The water was still. A perfect night to be a victim or carry out a kill. I saw some figures standing in the doorway, weapons in their hands. I didn't know what to do when I heard those cries. There's blood on the walls, blood on the walls, blood on the walls in the night. There's blood on the walls, blood on these walls. All I could do was look by.
At the bottom, down, down, I'm gonna stay long gone, but I don't know if I'll make it back home. I'm at the bottom, long gone.
A two-lane highway leads us into Everglades City, Chokoloskee Island, a teardrop of land to the southeast. For an area that's been such a catalyst for debate and conflict over the past couple of centuries, the narrow strip of asphalt sends a message. Are you in or are you out? 90 minutes from Miami and Fort Lauderdale, Everglades City is civilization's last exit. From here, the 10,000 islands reign supreme, reaching beyond what the human eye can comprehend. There may be more than 10,000 islands, or less, who knows, but they had to go with something. Then, of course, there's its neighbor, the Everglades, the magic carpet of swamp, sawgrass, and bog that covers most of the southern half of the state. The planet only made one Everglades. As a result, it has left mankind scratching its head for nearly 2 centuries. In 1848, when the Senate was debating whether to drain the Everglades, a government report deemed it suitable only for the haunt of noxious vermin or the resort of pestilent reptiles. From water quality to red tide to the impact of big agriculture, the battle of the Glades' future rages on.
The Everglades has been an ongoing source of agony for the state of Florida for 50, 60, 70 years. So clearly by the time I arrived, the state and the federal authorities involved were deep into how to fix the Everglades. If you dig in and get involved and commit yourself, good things will happen.
The Rod and Gun Club has had a front row seat to this saga. Built 1 year before the end of the Civil War, it morphed from a private residence into an exclusive outdoorsman's retreat. Today, it's open to anyone looking to wet a line. It only makes sense that it serve as our launch point. It It wasn't the politicians, lobbyists, and agricultural tycoons who made Everglades City's two-lane highway a necessity. It was the sportsmen. The 10,000 Islands is home to some 200 species of fish, including many that anglers seek out the most: snook, kingfish, permit, cobia, snapper, and redfish, whose population is believed to have blossomed after the predatory snook were killed off en masse during the 2010 cold weather fish kill. The 10,000 Islands has many stories, and the locals share them with us. They are the soothsayers, here long enough to have seen the patterns and predict what's next. An awfully useful trait when you're trying to chase the bite. Sport Fishing Television is brought to you by Ram Trucks, powered by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram. By Yellowfin, your legacy. By Simrad, go with confidence. And by Mercury Marine, #1 on the water. Some people find this area. For others, the area finds them. That holds true for Captain Charlie Phillips. He planted roots here before being a guide was even in the picture.
As soon as I graduated high school on a Friday, I left for the Army on Monday morning and went into explosives, got out of that, and I got into commercial explosives. So that's what brought me to Florida, was blowing up bridges, buildings, beaver dams, you name it. I traveled all over Florida.
In 2009, Captain Charlie started Hope Fishing Adventures and hasn't looked back. This place has become more than a home. It's a daily challenge, one that he welcomes.
It's a tough fishery for new people here in that everything looks fishy. Every point,
It does.
everywhere you look looks like it should hold a snook. And it takes a lot of time to sort out what actually does, what actually doesn't.
Captain Charlie says this is among the few places that has some elbow room. He's not talking about room to live, but a place to fish. Find the structure, find the fish. From a simple rock to a sunken barge. Something that bears weight will also bear fish.
Little wrecks, little rock piles, old barges, some public numbers, some private numbers, where these fish just congregate. And it draws everything in the pond to these pieces of structure. So even here, 8.5, 9 miles offshore, we'll catch snook, redfish, trout. We're only about 25 foot of water. Cobia, permit, snapper, grouper, and it's the structure. The structure draws the fish. They never leave here. We got a cobia. We're using net on him. He's not a gaffer. Good fish.
When you're looking around structure for one species, you often find another. The end of the line might turn into a true food chain, in the flesh. And I wasn't wrapped up in the prop right there. Something a little more dangerous.
Clear. Oh! I woke him up. Got him? Nice. Woo! That was fun.
Thank God, dude. Thank God.
This is a place filled with old tales. Some good, some bad. Some end up on the page, others pass along through word of mouth.
I'm born and raised on Chokoloskee. Worked this area until I was 40 years old as a commercial fisherman here, so I know this area like you know your backyard.
The tour boat captain. Yet another vehicle into the past. And before him, a history of settlements and pioneers, where Smallwood's store played a key role. Established as a trading post in 1906, Locals would buy and sell furs, hides, and other goods for food, tools, basically survival. Life in the Florida scrub wasn't easy. Gary McMillan and his wife Lynn, a granddaughter of Ted Smallwood, the founder of the store, operate the museum.
Married the girl that her grandfather owned the Smallwood store here, and now we have kind of got into the tourist side of everything.
Everything on display is what was inside the store when it closed in 1982. All the goods are still intact, frozen in time. Some of this area's past contributed to history that isn't exactly kosher. A lot of good stories about bad decisions, and most of all, names to know. From Edgar J. Watson to Al Capone, this area hosted many an outlaw.
Well, we've had a reputation of that. I know one of my wife's great uncles, Al Capone, used to come here and get him to take him down to Cuba to set up his jobs down there for buying his whiskey and stuff. This area is perfect for doing that, because if you don't know the area, you can't find it.
Outlaws went out of style. Then a new force moved in, anglers. Commercial and recreational businesses set up shop. No matter who you talk to here, someone is either friends with a guide, family of a guide, or is a guide. But guides rely on so much: government regulations, good reputations, and more importantly, environmental stability.
The Everglades have struggled forever, throughout my entire career. But in the past couple of years, it's gotten even worse.
Sport Fishing Television, powered by Ram Trucks, is being brought to you by Yeti Coolers, built for the wild. By Penn, let the battle begin. And by the Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Driven to Fish, powered by Ram Trucks. With so many parties involved in this pile of environmental woes, it's hard to nail just one misstep that made the Glades this way. That turned it into a national headline. We tracked down someone who has a big picture perspective of all the stakeholders and all the elements. Kevin Spear, an award-winning environmental journalist with the Orlando Sentinel, has reported these stories throughout his career. There have been plenty of them.
The Everglades have struggled forever. Throughout my entire career, there's been some matter or another that suggests ailing ecosystems and wildlife and water quality and so forth. But in the past couple of years, it's gotten even worse. The issue of water pollution is one that is important for all of us who live in Florida in one way or another. Good, clean water, whether it's inland in our springs and rivers or along the coastline, plays into the kind of tourism that we see that is so powerful in the state and provides so many jobs.
To put what Kevin is saying into context, let's use this explainer created by the Everglades Foundation in partnership with animator Rachel Johnson. Today, water can no longer freely flow south from Lake Okeechobee. and the Everglades agricultural area, owned mostly by subsidized sugar companies, sits right where the River of Grass used to begin. The water in Lake Okeechobee has been contaminated with too many nutrients from agricultural fertilizers like nitrogen and phosphorus. So much so that the water in the lake is considered far too polluted to be sent onto the Everglades like it used to. Not only is this a waste of precious drinking water, but it also damages our coastal estuaries, kills fish, and contributes to toxic red tide that endangers nearly 8 million Floridians up and down the coast. To some, that seems downright apocalyptic, like the end is near. It's a reasonable look at what has transpired, but there's light at the end of the channel. Politicians, environmental groups, and citizens are making more than noise. They're making everyone aware that this matters.
So I think there is a more recent coalescing of people trying to get the job done, whether Republican or Democrat or businessman or environmentalist. There is a sign that we're all working together.
The well-being of the Glades impacts us all. From the state capitol in Tallahassee down to a Chuckaluskee campfire. It's felt everywhere. Captain Charlie knows this well.
This is why I'm here, just for that, and that you don't hear anything.
Just like any angler, there are favorites in the waters we fish. For Captain Charlie, permit are atop the list.
Permit. It can be the most frustrating fish in the world, to run up to my bait and circle it, put that big eye as he's just looking at it, and if something's not right, he'll let you know very quick as he just snubs his nose and he's gone.
Yeah. For him, a vacay is the same as a workday. Living here is something to be envious of.
There's more water here than a guide or any man can ever explore in his entire life. So on my days off is a chance to just fish a stretch of water I've never been before.
Stories around the campfire are a familiar tune. It's what's expected. But when we run into our shifty, marble-eyed friend, there's no telling what will happen. Sport Fishing Television is being brought to you by Ram Trucks, powered by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram. By King Sailfish Mounts for that once-in-a-lifetime catch. By Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. And by Mercury Marine, #1 on the water. It was a good night talking shop with Captain Charlie. Maybe too good a night. Time to shake off those cobwebs and hit the water. While the near-shore passes house their own fishing action, a run offshore is an equally noteworthy part of the 10,000 Islands. Specifically, the Air Force radio relay towers that dot the Gulf of Mexico. They are targeted by anglers up and down Florida's west coast. The towers, some operational, some not, date back to World War II. They're magnets for fish, specifically migratory species that prey on the bait fish lingering nearby.
Get a lot of permit running around here, a lot of cobia. Down at the bottom, big snapper, big grouper, Goliath. Very high structure, very high relief.
Permit, an infamous and spooky fish on the flats, often rise to check out your boat as you approach a spot in deeper water. Permit tend to circle a given area repeatedly, making passes by the boat and affording repeated casting opportunities.
Look at them. Look at that school of permit right there.
Light tackle works great in these situations, and it's a chance to hone your casting skills. It's often most effective to drift repeatedly over a given spot, going upwind and riding the current back to the tower. That way, you can cast as singles as they circle the area.
Good fish, dude.
Oh my God.
That's a good job.
Charlie, we're gonna get another one, right? biggest one yet.
It's interesting how a place can be so remote, yet have so many eyeballs on it. What you may not be able to see is the shifting tide, a swing in momentum that might just save the Glades.
This year, the legislature, and the governor approved it, came up with as much as $200 million for the Everglades, $50 million for freshwaters, and even $5 million for Lake Apopka. This is remarkable. 3 years ago, this would have never happened. But I think people have rallied together enough, whether politicians, environmental groups, or just citizens, and really pushed for this.
This place is not static. Change is constant. An influx of millions of dollars in restoration funds is just beyond our fingertips. In April, a temporary freshwater release of unpolluted water into Florida Bay in Everglades National Park resulted in better fishing almost overnight. The Rod and Gun Club is now for sale, the owners letting go of a property they've had for 40 years. Then there's us, the polls and pundits and general public. The Glades, the banquet table we surround. It's the family dinner we've all been to. There are 15 people and 16 opinions, but no one is going to figure it out for us. This region should get everything we can give now. Advocacy, investment, protection, rehabilitation. Everything, always, now. It needs the right people to stay and the wrong people to go. And I'd be happy to show them the one road out.